Hey there, thinkers. Welcome back to another episode of Critical Hit. My name is S.
And I'm Finn, and today we're talking about Disney again, but Disney maybe in a good sense.
Yeah.
So Disney has hired a new CFO named Hugh Johnston, and we're going to discuss today why they may have hired him, what he's done in the past, and what this looks like for the outcome of Disney and its financials.
Yeah, let's take a look into the calculated decisions. Let's get into it.
So this is from Business Standard that Disney taps CFO Hugh Johnston, who fended off Peltz at Pepsi. Or more specifically, PepsiCo, and beat the forecast, of course. So with Hugh there, this is a quote, Pepsi did a nice job convincing the street that it had a growth plan. That's said Bloomberg intelligence analyst Ken Shea. PepsiCo Inc's Hugh Johnston will find a familiar face when he joins Walt Disney Co next month as Chief Financial Officer. Of course, that's activist investor Nelson Peltz. And we've talked about this before. Nelson Peltz being an activist investor doesn't actually mean activist. It more or less just means someone who takes a very large minority stake inside a company in order to change it, usually to try to make more profit.
Like an outspoken person.
Kind of. More like someone that wants to make money.
Yeah.
It's not activist in the sense you think it is.
Someone who likes to take a stand. That's all.
So Johnston has been Pepsi's CFO since 2010 and was a key player fending off Trian Fund Management 10 years ago when its founder, Peltz, began pushing the soft drink and snack giant to either merge with a rival or split into two businesses. Johnston argued against the proposal. Pepsi added a Peltz advisor to its board in 2015, and Trian sold its shares the following year. So yeah, that was pretty big, of course.
Yeah. It was pretty big.
So this was in 2014. At the time, Nelson Peltz wanted to take over PepsiCo because they weren't doing, let's say, fantastic. I think they went from about $53 billion in revenue or so at the time, or just over at the time. And Peltz wanted to come in, and he wanted to essentially make more money. He had, again, an active investor over there trying to get people on the board at the time. And in the end, he did succeed. However, he didn't actually get the win he was hoping for. He only got one member on the board. Well, it's hard to argue he didn't get the win he was looking for because really Pepsi shares ended up rising after that. And Peltz would have made money anyways. Overall, I don't want to say Peltz lost that, but he definitely was fended off from taking over on that company. You know, they say he wanted to break up the company, and I don't want to say it wasn't for the best. Obviously, PepsiCo does fantastic now. I think it was at $83 billion last year in sales, or in revenue, so it's done quite well. But at the time, he thought it was best to try to break up the company into different portions because it's such a large food and beverage company. And he was trying to make it so it was just a little more, let's say, grounded in the different businesses it was doing. If you need to sell off some in order to make something a little more streamlined, kind of like, you know, what Disney's doing right now, get back to the basics, then maybe that's not for the worst. However, Johnston did come back, and obviously PepsiCo did quite well. Now, he's not the only one that's done well. However, he was kind of the face of the company going through all that, always on CNBC or Financial Markets talking about the growth of the company. So Peltz is now seeking several board seats on Disney after amassing a $2.5 billion stake in the company, and he dropped a similar push earlier this year after Disney Chief Executive Officer Bob Iger announced a cost-cutting plan. He did not announce that, actually. That was Chapek that announced the cost-cutting plan, and Bob Iger kind of said he didn't actually say they weren't going to do it when he came back, but he didn't really talk about it until Nelson Peltz kind of put his foot on the pedal for it, and then Bob Iger came out saying, okay, we're going to do the same cuts, and Nelson Peltz backed off. He also said a couple other things, too. They bring back a dividend, which they still haven't done for the stock. But
eventually.
Yeah, and eventually all these things will be done. But, of course, Disney lost about 3% of its value this year. I think it's lost a little bit more than that. But it was a high at one point of about just over $200. Right now it's sitting about $85. So to say it's lost 3% of its value this year, I think that's a little disingenuous for seeing how far we've fallen for Disney. But Disney announced the appointment of Johnston, he's 62 now, as of the new CFO early Monday. He succeeds longtime executive Christine McCarthy, who stepped down for family medical leave in June. The new CFO is expected to bring a seasoned hand to other issues at Disney, the world's largest entertainment company, struggling to navigate the shift by consumers from traditional TV channels to streaming services. Didn't Iger actually say that the streaming was the future of TV?
Oh, yeah.
He had a big plan.
Made a very big announcement about it.
Netflix makes money.
Public announcement.
Netflix makes money. Why can't he make money? That's odd. He said he may sell some networks like ABC. And yeah, he wants to sell ABC, some traditional TV linear networks. And he's also talking about selling ESPN. Said there's some possible buyers out there. I have heard as high as $27 billion. I think that's a little optimistic. I also know they're going to buy Hulu later this year. And they're looking at only paying, I think it was $8.61 billion. And I think, again, that's a little optimistic. So we'll see how this plays out for them. At the moment, Disney, of course, is struggling right now for finances. Even their last quarterly report didn't play out so well for them. They had about $12 billion in cash flow. That is to say, that's what liquidity they had. Some call it powder.
Okay.
Disney said they only had about 20 billion or so, and they had about 12 billion in cash. They were 400 million negative last quarter. They continue to bleed money. They're losing money in the theaters. They are making money right now in their cruise lines, and they are making money in their international theme parks.
Well, think of even their toy section as well. Like all the Star Wars toys that just got thrown off the shelf. People aren't buying their toys either.
Well, they're doing poorly right now. Let's just say that across the board, they're doing poorly, except for their theme parks, and specifically the international ones are outliers.
Mm-hmm. Not the Western ones.
So this is a big move for Disney. Of course, they need it. They need someone to help get those finances on track. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. Hugh Johnston knows nothing about media. Knows nothing about being an entertainment conglomerate. Nothing, in a sense. Now, he does know a lot about business. Don't get me wrong. And at his level, you're more thinking strategic. You give strategic guidance out. And that's fine when it comes to this, general guidance. But when you're trying to give any kind of specific guidance for how things go, or financials, understanding budgets, it is going to be a little more complicated for him. And I'm not saying he's not the man for the job or he can't do it. I'm just saying if you're looking for the reason Disney hired him, I think this article hit the nail on the head here. And that is that he's going to fight against Nelson Peltz.
Mm-hmm.
He knows the words to investors. He knows what he needs to say to get shareholders on board and try to fight off Nelson Peltz, because that's all Bob Iger cares about. Bob Iger cares about his own job, and he's going to hire whoever he needs, do whatever he can do in order to keep his own job and keep someone like Nelson Peltz off the board. He's going to destroy it for him. Bob Iger's legacy is already ruined. He's not going to go out in any kind of good heroic moment or
blaze of glory or some sort of heroic sacrifice.
It's not going to happen. His legacy at this point is pretty destroyed, unfortunately, and I don't think he's the man to turn it around. I think you need some new blood in there, really, that understands entertainment to come in and try to fix this. Maybe someone from Europe to come in, wipe everyone off right now, and start over fresh. Now, he's way too arrogant for something like that. I think he keeps a sign on his door saying, "In Bob we trust."
The thing about the French, and I'm pretty sure one of the parks in France is doing amazing right now. The French are very traditional. They like keeping to the traditional stories. And I'm pretty sure that if we had someone from France come over here to fix Disney, it might work.
Honestly, I would pick someone from Disney Japan. Disney Japan is fantastically fighting against everything North America.
Fanboy. Okay, Japan is just fanboy Disney.
So they are 100% fighting against everything Disney tries to do. In fact, the messaging, they always have to be like, hey, stop using any messaging over here, North American Disney. We will handle our own stuff because we don't think you're good at this.
No, bad.
Well, if you go to the theme parks over there's a reason they're doing well. Let's just say that.
Exactly.
You know what? The big thing here is Disney stock hasn't moved because I don't think shareholders are sold off on this. Disney reports their financials in 2 days. We're going to see some pretty bad news coming out of it. And we're going to see, Disney just falling down one step further. Are they going to fight Nelson Peltz off with this? They're going to try to put up a fight. Fine. I think they're paying him a decent amount of money. It's $2 million, and then he gets $14 million in stock. And then he gets another option after that. But realistically, I don't think he's going to save the company from Nelson Peltz. And I shouldn't say save the company. He's not going to stave off Nelson Peltz from saving the company, I think is the right way of wording that. Because Disney needs to get back to the basics. They have some great IPs out there. Let's get back to making some good ones. And if you need to sell off some IPs or properties that aren't necessarily doing it for you and give them off to someone else and get back to doing what Disney does best, well, that's what you need to do. And that's what Nelson Peltz wants to do. You know what? But let's get back into it. So other strategic moves have included an attempt to address consumer concerns about healthy eating by making containers of soda and snack smaller, such as companies Doritos and Cheetos. Oh, that's a great thing. I love getting less product.
Oh, with more air, like the Lay's conspiracy theory?
That's he might be the guy responsible, or at least partly responsible for that. Under Johnston, Pepsi has become known for making and beating conservative financial forecasts. That isn't to say this is some political conservative guy. That's just to say the forecasts were conservative in nature. That is to say that if we thought they were going to make $4 million, they would make $6 million.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a more conservative instead of liberal forecast. The executives have often been the public face of the company on Wall Street and in an investor presentation and TV appearances. They could potentially make him a candidate to succeed Iger, whose contract runs out in 2026, according to Citigroup analyst Philip Falinori. Again, with that, is he the right guy to take over? He knows nothing. He knows nothing about being a media conglomerate. Now, I'm sure the guy's very knowledgeable, great financial experience, but when it comes to running something like a big, huge company like Disney over in LA compared to New York, the nuances of running that would be incredibly different. And they've already tried a number of guy in Chapek. We'll see how this goes. He's been around the organization, Florey said in an interview, and he's had lots of operational experience. So Disney has declined to comment or make Johnston available. Johnston, who served on board of Microsoft and HCA Healthcare Inc., doesn't have any direct experience in movies, TV, theme parks, or Disney core business. Kind of defeats the purpose of them saying he's had a lot of organizational experience, doesn't it?
That seems weird. He's not perfect for the job at all. You're hired.
Because you fought Nelson Peltz. When Johnston joined the board in Twitter Inc. in 2016, many observed that he didn't have an account on the social media site beforehand. And Twitter Inc. may have found an answer to his problems of user growth, added non-users to the company's board, and get them started tweeting. Market Watch wrote at the time. In an address at his alma mater's, Syracuse University in 2012, Johnston said new challenges are key to professional growth. And yeah, absolutely. You never want to stray away from a challenge. But the problem is he knows nothing about the business. And don't tell me he helped Twitter when he joined the board in 2016. Twitter was cash flow negative, according to Elon Musk, even as much as this year. It might still be. The guy absolutely has done amazing over at PepsiCo. Does he know the beverage and snack industry? Absolutely he does. Without a question. He spent 34 years in it.
I think this guy knows how to sell a product, but
does he knows how to distribute? Not sell. He probably knows nothing about selling, but he knows how to distribute a product, give strategic guidance and distribution for things like that. You know, it's one thing that they don't do in entertainment anymore. They don't really distribute anything like movies, DVDs, VHS. No. Back in those old days, they don't have that anymore. So while he will have experience, he won't have the experience he needs. The one thing he does have experience in is fighting Nelson Peltz. Make no mistake, there's only one reason they're hiring Hugh Johnston, and that's to fight Nelson Peltz. Can he take over Disney afterwards? I don't know. Anything's possible. But is he the right guy for the job? Hell no, he's not. And I'd love to see more from him maybe that's too early for me to call it. I want to see more from him. But at the moment, from everything I can see from the outside, it looks like he is definitely not the right person for the job. And he's just going to come in to fight Nelson Peltz, and maybe he sticks around afterwards. Maybe he does a great job. But overall, he's not going to be ready by 2026. I think that's a stretch. 3 years to get him ready in a completely different business, industry. It's a little bit of nepotism going on over in Hollywood, I would say. I mean, if just make friends with the right person, who knows? Now, Disney is struggling. But realistically, I think Bob Iger just tapped on the shoulder and said, hey, I need to tag you in here. I need you to come in and fight Nelson Peltz. Say to the shareholders what we need you to say. Give us some strong guidance going forward during our earnings report. November 8th is when they're going to come out with the end of year report. We'll see what they have to say at that point. And if they give really strong guidance, yeah, it will boost the shares. But again, even in that case, Nelson Peltz wins. I think we know why they hired Mr. Johnston for the job. So I don't think this is the savior Disney's looking for. If anything, it might hold him off for a little bit longer in Nelson Peltz. But I really do think Nelson Peltz is going to win this fight, and I do think he will be the savior for Disney. Right now, they hired a new, I don't want to say this guy's a bad guy, Hugh Johnston, but he's like a new Sith Lord. And again, like I said, it's hard to say Nelson Peltz lots because PepsiCo ended up doing better in the future.
Yeah.
So if anything, if he made them get back on track, if he made it stronger, made them work harder, I'm okay with that. And shareholders should be okay with that. And maybe everyone else in Disney should be okay with that. Even, let's just say Bob Iger wins this battle in the end. Let's just say he does. Well, he wins it by going back to the basics and doing the things we want him to do anyways.
It's a win-win.
But anyways, that's the news I got here. Disney hiring a new CFO, Hugh Johnston. And like I said, I don't think he's terrible. He's been a great CFO, bringing PepsiCo up from about $50 billion, I think it was, just over, up to $83 billion in 10 years. So obviously the revenue doing quite well over that time frame. More than matched inflation. Fantastic for him. He's actually making money. But yeah, that's what I got to say on this. Like I said, Hugh Johnston coming in, new CFO, replacing Christine McCarthy, and they're going to try to fight Nelson Peltz on this. But yeah, let me know what you think about this down in the comments. Do you think Bob Iger's going to win at this point? Do you think he has a chance? Do you think that there's a way to save the company besides what I've said? Let me know what you think down in the comments.
And if you made it this far, please do like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're notified for our next video. And we'll see you in the next video. Toodles!
Bye, guys.